Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian. We're going to start by some singing. So if you wouldn't mind rising our body and spirit, we're going to sing Building Bridges, and we're going to do it as a round, but we'll sing it all the way through together first. And after we sing that all the way through, we'll have this side of the room be part number one, and I'll sing with you. And this side will be, from here on, part number two. And then you'll sing with the choir, and we'll see if we can do it as a round a few times and see how it comes out. So, here we go. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make some sweet... One more time like this. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet... Part one, get ready. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Keep going. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet... One more time. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Thank you.
Friends, we could make such sweet harmony, building bridges between our divisions. I'm reaching out to you right now. It's early, and you made it. Congratulations. It's going to be a wonderful day, everyone. So glad that you're here. I am the Reverend Verdis LeVar Robinson, Minister for Growth. I use he, they pronouns. I'm here with Amanda, who is our acting religious educator, education director. We have Chris, who is our worship associate today. We have Pablo, the music director, along with our ukulele orchestra. You're in for a treat today, as well as our First Unitarian choir. So great to have all of you. And our preacher for today is the Reverend Dr. Lynn. And you know Reverend Dr. Lynn. But Reverend Dr. Lynn was ordained as a UU minister in 2000. She has served congregations and worked as a hospice chaplain. And for the past 10 years, she has been a licensed mental health counselor in private practice here in Rochester, New York. She specializes in grief, spiritual issues, and family conflict. She is also the owner of Crossbridge Wellness, a wellness center including a variety of different kinds of therapists. She has dabbled in church counseling and is an affiliate community minister here at First Unitarian. She lives here in Rochester with her husband and 2 dogs and 2 adult sons and a daughter-in-law, and we are so glad to have you here, and we're looking forward to the message that you will bring this morning. Here at First Unitarian Church of Rochester, our mission is, through spiritual connection and community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves, open to wonder and transformation, and serve together with love and humility. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, the keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Unitarian now stands. And if you're new or newish here, please make sure to stop at the welcome desk so that we can help you connect. And if you're here today because you're going through some hard time or worried about someone else or the state of the world, please connect with a pastoral care associate during or after the service. And as we settle in to this special sacred time and place, let us all take one deep breath. And as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, Amanda will do that. Please join me in saying in unison our words for our chalice lighting. Oh, here you go. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. Now please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 402, From You I Receive.
Morning, everybody. You all got the email this week that said service Sunday morning is going to be about math. And then you lost an hour of sleep and you still got up and you got here. I am enormously proud of you all. My name is Chris Dorso. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And when I was in high school, I was a big old math guy. I was a big old math nerd. I was not the confident human being that you see right now. My sole extracurricular activity was the math team, and I got a 5 on Calc BC. Like, you check off every math nerd box, I did it. And so when I got to college, I knew I wanted to be a journalist. I knew I wanted to write, but I said, you know what, I'm really good at math, so I'm going to double major in journalism and math. And what I'm going to do with that, hell if I know, but I'm going to double major in journalism and math. And so took Calc 3 my freshman year, got an A in Calculus 3, and I was well on my way to a career in math. And then spring of my freshman year rolled around, and I sat down in the first day of, I can picture it, Math 324, Real Analysis with Dr. Gary Towsley, who sure is a wonderful human being, but he was speaking a language that morning that I did not understand, and realized at that morning that I had no desire at all to understand. And so I left Math 324, and I went directly to the registrar's office, and I said, do I have enough to be a math minor if I drop this class and just stay as a journalism major? And they said, yes, you'll only need to take one more class, and it's a logic class. And I said, I can do logic. I said, check. I said, I am officially no longer a math major. That, friends, is why we come to church. Because sometimes life sends you in a different direction than you expect. And we need to learn to trust the universe. And sometimes the universe tells us that we need to make a left turn, or we need to make a right turn, and we need to trust the universe and listen to our hearts and listen to our guts. And so this morning, as you greet your neighbors, I want you to look back to your own high school experience, and what was it in your school years that you loved so much that maybe isn't as much of a part of your life anymore? Welcome. Welcome. We're glad you're all here. This covenant was written and affirmed here in 2002. We will, as a community, make a new covenant in April of this year. This is our covenant of right relations. As a religious community, we support each other in our search for truth and right action. We remind ourselves of basic beliefs concerning ways to treat one another. We check our own responses to be sure we are showing respect to the person who may have a different perspective. We tap into our reservoirs of kindness and empathy as we speak and listen. We seek to make our generosity of spirit explicit. In this time of transition in our religious community, I intend to listen attentively, acknowledge others' views, and try to imagine holding their opinions. To refrain from judging other people's motives and opinions. To seek accurate information, be willing to test my assumptions, and examine my own motives. To communicate openly, directly, and honestly. I will go directly to a person with whom I disagree and share differences respectfully. If needed, I will use a third party to mediate. To balance being open to new ideas and respecting our traditions. To stay engaged and be patient with myself, others, and the process of change. To allow space for feelings and emotions, mine and others. To lighten up, let go of the trivial, and be willing to give and take. And to remind myself that we are all working for the shared goal of supporting our religious community.
Good morning. Wow, Pandy, that was a really lovely song by the ukulele choir. Yeah, that was great. Great song. So I wanted to let everyone know Pandy, he's here with me today because he was so excited about the topic that I was going to share about during the Time for All Ages, which is families. Oh, families. We're talking about families. I'm so excited. Oh, that's great, Pandy. We're going to talk about families. And a really important place to start when we talk about families is just all the different kinds of families that there are out there. So there are big families and smaller families. There are families where there's one parent, two parents, three parents, and sometimes more parents. There's families where parents are divorced, families where parents are married or not married. There are families where the grandparents take care of the children or other family members take care of the children. And there are families that are just of adults that don't have children in them. So there are so many different kinds of families. Wow, that's a lot of kinds of families. Do you think you forgot any? It's likely, Pandy, that there are kinds of families I didn't even mention. There's just so many kinds of families. Did I forget any types of families that any of you want to kind of shout out into the space? Because we want everyone here to feel included today. Single and you live with a pet. Single with a pet is definitely a family. Really anywhere that, people gather or beings gather together to make a home, to find love and community together, I would say is a family. That's really neat. So, Pandy, was there anything in particular about families that you wanted to discuss? Yes. Oh, what is it? I want to talk about siblings. Oh, siblings is a really good topic, Pandy. Yes. So, Pandy, anything about siblings? Well, I am the youngest sibling in my family, the youngest child. And sometimes people call me a baby, but I am not a baby. Oh, Okay, Pandy. That's true. You are not a baby. You're kind of getting to be a pretty grown-up panda bear. Yes, I am not a baby. We hear you, Pandy. So, do you think, Pandy, would it be nice for you to see any other youngest children that are out there today? Oh, yes, I would really like that. So, is there anyone out there who would be willing to raise a hand to let us know you're a younger sibling and to let Pandy know? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That makes me feel less alone. Yeah, and you know, Pandy, I bet that some of the people out there have some similar feelings to how you feel about being a younger sibling, and probably some different feelings, because there's just so many different factors in your spot in the family and how you feel about it. Wow. How about you, Amanda? Are you a youngest sibling too? Because you and I are just alike. Oh, you know, Pandy, we are a lot alike. I like that you feel that way. But I'm not a youngest sibling. I'm actually an oldest child in my family. Do you want to see other oldest children out in the congregation? Oh, I would. Because it sounds like being an oldest is a lot of responsibility. Oh, well, I think it can feel that way. I always like to see other oldest siblings because I do feel a little like, same with you. Oh, there's a lot of them out there. Look at them raising their hands. They're all very, you can count on them. Are there other people in the family, other kinds of siblings? Yes, absolutely, Pandy. There are. There are middle children, and we cannot forget about them. Okay, let's see the middle children. Oh, look at them, the middle children. Wonderful. What else? Well, Pandy, there are single children who are the only children in their family, and we cannot forget about them. Rostam, my son, is a single child. Oh, I wonder if that's lonely. Well, interesting, Pandy. I think everybody feels lonely sometimes, and Rostam would say it's great to be a single child because you get all of your parents' attention. Whoa, that sounds pretty good. Do single children want to raise their hands and let us see you? Cool. You know what I hear about single children? There's more and more of them out there. More and more all the time. Oh. One other type of sibling I want to mention, because it's a little bit different than other kinds of siblings, is multiples. People who are twins or triplets or sometimes even more. Do any multiples want to raise their hands? Anybody out there who's a multiple? Hey, look at that. So cool. And multiples can still be younger or older or middle children too, right? But they're two babies that were born at the same time into a family. It's pretty special. That is special. Oh, I thought of one other kind of sibling. So sometimes two people who already have children make a family. And so then there are stepchildren and step-siblings. Anybody out there have step-siblings? That's really special because you can get a new sibling when you're 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 if you have step-siblings. Wow. So again, it's cool to have these things in common, being first children, oldest or youngest, middle, or any of those other things. But it's also really, your spot in your family is unique. There's so many different things going on in families. And so, we'll have things in common, but your experience in your family is kind of just yours. But one thing that we really have in common is that as human beings, families are pretty important to all of us. They've been an important part of our lives for the most part. Okay. For panda bears too, Oh, good to know, Pandy. So, do you want to share our final words for our story? Yes. May this story unfold in your hearts until we meet again. Thanks, Pandy. You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
I don't know about you, but I am the youngest, and I'm still the baby. I don't care what anyone says. But you're not going to put me in the corner. Okay, that's a Gen X reference. We now come to the part of our service where we come together and we share silence, followed by a prayer. So as we listen to our heartbeat, you can put your hand to your heart if you desire, and let's enter into a period of community silence. And as we create an atmosphere of prayer and meditation from the words of Adam Slate, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of hope, Spirit of justice, God known by many different names or no name at all. You have given us a day unique from any other. You have connected us, all of us, with each other and with the world. In ways that are largely a mystery to us, you have given us little instruction other than to be present in our own lives, to feel wonder at the creations of the universe, and to love one another. You have put gifts and challenges in our paths, joys and sorrows, strengths and fragilities, and frailties, some of which we have already encountered, and others we have yet to discover. On this unique Sunday morning, may we receive exactly what is needed. May we receive exactly what it is that we need. Amen. And as we enter into this ritual of community care, we bring to our hearts, what's on our hearts, and lay it on the altar of community and spirit, honoring the complexities of life. Bring to mind whatever grief, growth, or gratitude that is alive within you this morning. You're invited to come forward to light a candle. And if you would like an usher or me to bring a candle to you, please raise your hand and I will do that for you. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. all that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by a love that will not let us go. Amen.
I'd like to invite the choir up to help us with a musical meditation. It's called Joy in the Morning. We're going to sing this first verse a couple of times to get familiar. Here we go. And we'll find joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. In the morning we'll find joy. Sing that again. We'll find joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. In the morning we'll find joy. Let's do it one last time, and feel free to improvise as we sing this. And Graff. We'll find joy in the morning. Joy in the Next verse is we'll find hope in our children. And Graff. We'll find hope in our children. Hope in our children. Hope in our children. In our children we'll find hope.
Each week, members and friends generously contribute to our offering, which helps to sustain and grow our community. This collection supports the work and witness of our church, and each week we give half of this collection to a partner organization helping those in need and working to create a more just and loving world. This week, we're sharing the plate with the League of Women Voters Rochester Metro Education Fund. This fund works to register voters and provide election information on a nonpartisan basis to encourage the informed, active participation of citizens in government. The League also works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League welcomes all people, and its registration efforts have a special focus on registering citizens from low registration areas, high school and college students, the homeless, and newly naturalized citizens at naturalization ceremonies. You can give online at rochesterunitarian.org/donate or in the baskets which are making their way around the room. Our offering will now be received with gratitude. A reading from A Mathematician's Lament by Paul Lockhart. For me, math is an adventure, a journey. I usually know more or less where I want to go. I just don't know how to get there. The only thing I do know is that I'm not going to get there without a lot of pain and frustration and crumpled up paper. So let's imagine you've been playing with this problem for a while. And at some point, you have this realization. What the pattern is saying is that any square design can be broken into pieces which are just the odd numbers. So you try out some chopping ideas. Your first few attempts are unsuccessful and have no real unity to them. They're random seeming and do not generalize. Then, all of a sudden, in one breathless, heart-stopping moment, the clouds part, and you can finally see. A square is a collection of nested L shapes, and these L shapes contain precisely the odd numbers. Eureka! You see why mathematicians jump out of bathtubs and run naked through the streets? Not like they used to. Do you see why this useless childish activity is so compelling? The thing I want you especially to understand is this feeling of divine revelation. I feel that this structure was out there all along. I just couldn't see it, and now I can. That's what really keeps me in the math game, the chance that I might glimpse some kind of secret underlying truth, some sort of message from the gods. To me, this kind of mathematical experience goes to the heart of what it means to be human. And I'll go even further and say that mathematics, this art of abstract pattern making, even more than storytelling, painting, or music, is our most quintessentially human art form. This is what our brains do, whether we like it or not. We are biochemical pattern recognition machines, and mathematics is nothing less than the distilled essence of who we are.
Set up. Hello. Hold on to your seats. You are in a math class, a church math class. Paul Lockhart critiques public school math education, saying that we don't actually teach math, so no wonder so many people hate it. We just heard about the heart of math, like real math, what it really is about. And it turns out it's something that I really love. It's about patterns. Not someone telling me what patterns exist and memorizing them for a test. No, it's about considering possibilities, exploring, discovering, being thrilled to identify and understand a pattern that makes sense of something that previously seemed random or incomprehensible. And that is exactly what I like about patterns in my field as well. Family systems theory is about discovering how people relate and learning how to understand who we are. What makes human patterns even more fascinating and challenging is that we are a part of the system. For all of you mathematicians out there, that's like imagine you are a number in the set you're studying. This makes it harder to recognize what's actually happening and highly valuable when we do. If we take the time to search out, understand, and optimize these patterns for good in our lives, we can help bring about divine revelation in our relationships, or at least become the best we can as individuals and as a church community. And that is worthy of a Sunday service. Let me explain. A number of years ago, I realized that my sister and I were not close. We always lived in different cities as adults, and we rarely talked by phone. I was feeling sad about that, and I was wondering why. Maybe because we're so different. I mean, almost opposites sometimes. I'm creative, empathic, focused on people and relationships, always questioning. My spiritual and social values are quite progressive. She is scientifically minded, analytical, often a black and white thinker. She gets into the blood and guts of the practical world, quite literally, in her past work as a military flight surgeon and currently as a medical doctor and a colonel in the United States Army. She is religiously and politically conservative. We are both leaders, but in vastly different realms. I used to rationalize that we didn't talk often because we're so dissimilar. Because, frankly, I often found her incomprehensible. It was easier to just keep her at a safe distance. And that is one of the biggest problems in our world today. So finally, I started to think deeper and to look for relationship patterns. I always knew what was going on in my sister's life, even though we rarely spoke. How? I talked to my mother on a regular basis, and my mother would update me in great detail. I didn't really need to talk to my sister since I already knew all about her. That was the real problem. It was all my mother's fault. And then one day, I decided to do the hard work and ask myself the questions that I don't like to answer, the ones I always ask my clients. What is my responsibility in this? What pattern is going on here, and what is my role in keeping the pattern the way it is? How am I contributing, maybe unwittingly, but still contributing to what is taking place? And what is going on with me that I'm reacting in this way? It is so much easier to blame someone else, and that in itself is a common human pattern. When I looked at my own role, I noticed a typical relational pattern from geometry, the triangle. In this story, we have three people that are the 3 points of the triangle: myself, my sister, and my mother. Triangle relationships happen when people don't communicate directly with each other, but instead talk about each other through a third party. They can also happen when people avoid dealing with a problem between oneself and another person by focusing the majority of one's attention on someone else who brings easier, more positive feelings. Maybe someone who shares similar worldviews. In this case, the easier relationship was between my mother and I, and those parallel lines show a close relationship. In those days, if I talked to my sister directly, I might have felt uncomfortable sharing something personal that she might question, or hearing her say things I disagreed with. So the dotted lines indicate a distant relationship. Letting communication go through my mother kept things at a safe distance. I could express my disagreements with my sister's point of view with my mother. My mother would understand my point, or at least listen, and I didn't have to hear my sister's response and risk getting into any kind of a tense discussion. The triangle kept the discomfort at a distance. It also prevented my sister and I from having a close relationship. Tension can deepen relationships if it's handled in a healthy way. In fact, some level of tension is necessary for a healthy relationship. I'm not talking about shouting and criticism, belittling, or stony silence. I'm talking about healthy conflict through deep, respectful discussions with people who have different perspectives. At its best, this can result in maybe a decision to agree to disagree, or even a slight shift in each person's perspective. I finally decided that it was worth risking some tension to have a better relationship with my sister. I made a conscious decision to change the long-standing pattern in that triangle. I asked my mother to stop telling me about my sister's life. If she started talking to me about my sister, I redirected her to other subjects. This forced her out of being a point on the relational triangle between my sister and I. It also forced me to either not know anything about my sister or to actually pick up the phone and talk to her directly. I chose to pick up the phone, and we started to talk more often and even get together more often. It takes a lot of effort to change a pattern. To start with, I had to navigate my mother's discomfort when I asked her not to tell me about my sister's life anymore. She had always done this. It was a very familiar pattern to both of us. Once I started to talk to my sister directly, we did have to navigate areas of religious and political tension. We learned to respect our different sets of values and not try to convince each other of our own perspective. However, it turns out the harder area for me to wrestle with has been the contrast between her highly rational and analytic approach to life and my more empathic, emotional, and creative approach to life. That part is a work in progress. But we spend much more time together, and we enjoy each other's company. Now here comes a crucial point, so get out your pens. There might be a pop quiz at the end of the service. The triangle pattern was there, whether we chose to discover it and work with it or not. However, when I let myself notice the relational pattern, I then had more choices. We can emphasize and build up the patterns that bring us health, or rework and reframe patterns that don't serve us well. Change does not happen overnight, but in a long, slow process of determination and resilience. In the end, it can affect entire family systems in a positive way. And that is why I love my work as a licensed mental health counselor, because real, meaningful change can and does happen. When multiple people work towards positive change in an organization or in society, we can transform systems. This congregation has done that kind of work together on multiple occasions, and the work continues. Now, for the next part of the sermon, I want to extend a special thank you to some longtime members who spent time telling me about the systems patterns that they observed in this church over the years. So a very special thank you to Ann Perry, Barbara DeLeo, Linda, and David Friedman. And a special thank you to Bill Fulgate for sharing his historical writings and research on this congregation. Now, please note, they have absolutely nothing to do with making you feel this morning like you're in a math class. No hand in that. Congregations often have triangle relationships in them. This church has dealt with indirect communication through triangles so often that it was included in our Covenant of Right Relations, which hangs on the wall by the church office. You heard earlier, but I'll read it again. Number 4, communicate openly, directly, and honestly. I will go directly to a person with whom I disagree and share differences respectfully. If needed, I will use a third party to mediate. The Covenant of Right Relations is a set of formulas for healthy communication. But just like in math, the real math that Paul Lockhart describes as an art, human relationship is also an art, not a science. The best artists of human relationship pay attention to the patterns of interaction in their lives and notice what's beneficial or not. What might be the exceptions to the standard rules? Many relational triangles are damaging. Some are actually beneficial. I'm part of relational triangles all day long in my work. People share what's going on in their relationships, and I help them sort things out. It's a healthy triangle because I'm trained and I'm a neutral person who has no stake in their struggles and disagreements. Another formula to look for in human relationships is if A, then B. And an example of that is overfunctioning and underfunctioning. If there is an overfunctioner in the system, there is also an underfunctioner in the system. And then if A and B, then what? In this case, if there's an overfunctioner and an underfunctioner, there's going to be tension. So that's another kind of pattern to look for in your life. Not necessarily specifically this, but if one thing, then another thing. The next relational pattern happens most often in conflictual congregations. It has happened here at various times over the course of our history. And this pattern is best shown with a Venn diagram, which illustrates sets and subsets. So here, the light blue rectangle is the set of all people who are members of this church, or any church, but it could be this church. Set A is all of the people who are part of one subset, and the circle B is members of the people who are part of another subset, and then there's an overlapping area in between. So the next diagram shows how this might work, and this is not a diagram from our church. I don't have the actual statistics from our church, but this is the members of the congregation. Wait a minute. Okay, members of the congregation, and one is the set of people who are, let's see, involved in the religious education program, and the other set is people who attend Sunday service. So there's some overlap there of people who both are part of the religious education program and Sunday service, but not the whole thing. And then this one is a little bit more complex. Again, not our church. Set A is all the people who are connected with the religious education program. B is everybody who attends Sunday service. And C is people who aren't connected to this. When subsets become conflictual and divisive, they turn into factions. Not fractions, but it's related. For example, sometimes there's a religious education faction versus an adult worship faction. In conflictual times throughout the history of this church, we have had groups for and against. William Henry Channing left our church, Reverend William Henry Channing left our church after only 1 year because of a high level of conflict in the congregation. A historian writing about that time period. Later in our church history, we developed factions over approaches to social justice. In the past 30 years, we've had factions develop several times over either a staff or a clergy person. In these cases, factions also included subsets of people who had certain information about the situation and people who did not. Factions are an intent when we didn't talk directly. When conflict gets to the point of factions, one group sees the other group in a completely negative light. Just look at the news. We have Democrats and Republicans, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Israel and pro-Palestine, people who work to dismantle white supremacy culture, and people who fight so-called woke culture. The terms themselves often categorize people in a divisive way. In today's society, we spend time with people who share our political, religious, and cultural views. This means there are no soul-searching conversations that could lead to even a marginal shift in anyone's perspective. This is one of the reasons why I pulled back from Unitarian Universalism a year ago. Some of you may remember my labyrinth service on spiritual journey. I saw growing extremism building in camps in Unitarian Universalism. I came back to Unitarian Universalism for a variety of reasons, but one of them is that I realized that factions are part of our whole society, and our religion sometimes reflect that. At our best, Unitarian Universalists are a part of the solution. The best way to live out our UU values is by engaging in difficult conversations that are also deeply respectful. This has happened here. For example, 10 years ago, our congregation didn't acknowledge the effects of systemic racism on Unitarian Universalism and in our society. That has changed significantly in recent years through focused and intentional work. This shift shapes conversations and approaches to anti-racism in the larger culture as well, and vice versa. The keys to changing patterns are, number one, becoming conscious about what relational patterns are taking place in our lives and becoming aware of our own role in those patterns. And then the second key is intentionality, choosing what we want to change and understanding why it matters. Finally, not all relationship patterns are bad. It's equally important, maybe even more important, to identify positive patterns and discover our own role in continuing and building on those. The same self-reflection questions are important. What pattern is going on here, and how am I keeping the pattern the way it is? What is going on with me that I'm behaving in this way? How does my contribution to this pattern benefit me? What responsibility do I have in relation to this pattern? There are many positive patterns in this congregation. One of those is a long-standing pattern of generosity. Congregants have shared time and talent to help people in need as far back as 1837, when Myron Holley brought his anti-slavery leadership to our church. In the 1840s, the congregation raised money to build a new building and then hosted the second Women's Rights Convention there in 1848. In 1918, this church opened the doors of our parish house to create a temporary hospital during the influenza epidemic. And currently, we are in our 18th year of the Greater Good Project, which asks members to cut our usual holiday spending in half. And then as a church, we donate the other half to important community projects chosen by the students. I haven't quite figured out how to describe that pattern of generosity in mathematical terms yet. Maybe some sort of loaves and fishes multiplication story, like the story in the Bible where there are 5 small loaves and 2 fishes and they fed a multitude. Or maybe some kind of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts kind of formula. What is the actual formula behind generosity in this congregation? What is my role? How can I shift my own role to build and develop this pattern? I know that I'm going to have some fun with playing with ideas to describe and identify this pattern, and maybe you can help. What do you observe? How might you describe this pattern of generosity? Together, we can explore other possible patterns that are going on in this congregation. What's happening? What is my role? What is your role? When we recognize patterns and our own roles, then we hold a powerful tool. Explore, have fun, discover, and change patterns. In the end, with relational patterns, playing with relational patterns, that can be a holy undertaking. A holy undertaking that brings emotional and spiritual wholeness to ourselves and to our church community. We don't want to end on for and against. Well, I don't know. I'm probably messing up the rest of it. There we go.
Please rise in body and spirit as we sing together For the Beauty of the Earth.
And as we end our service this morning, we have some connections. We got bagel sale going on in the lobby. We have navigating change with Elise Wall and the Susan B. Anthony Lounge, yoga for the season in the Williams Gallery. We have decorating eclipse glasses, and if you haven't purchased yours, you can purchase $3 a pair, $10 for a family. You can get them outside there, and you can decorate them in Gilbert Hall. We have Buddhist fellowship in a thorough room. We have the week playing in room 110. I'm almost done. Woo! Got a lot of connections going on. Parenting Matters and room 201, as well as UU 101 and 209. If you didn't memorize all of that, there are screens that have that, so that make sure that you connect, even if to just drink some coffee and have a conversation in front of the fireplace without lighting the fire. Now, as we extinguish the chalice, let's say our words there. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. In our benediction.
And notice and discover the patterns in your lives. Bring you and those around you health and healing. And don't forget to be ready for next week's exam.